Hello, we are learning how to do a couple things with number lines. We are making a decimal number line, and afterwards we will be labeling decimal number lines. Okay, so our steps. We are going to follow these exact steps. First, we're going to find our lowest and highest numbers. Step 2, choose a starting point smaller than our lowest number, and choose an end point larger than your highest number. Step 3, we will label our whole numbers, or our ones. And step 4, we will label your tenths. That's 10 between each of the ones. And if needed, label your hundredths, or 10 between each of the tenths. And finally, when you're done, you'll put the actual numbers on your number line. Okay, so let's make our first number line following all these steps. So our first step is to find the highest and lowest number. So here's our first set of numbers. There's 4 of them. Looking at them, they're not in order. After a quick look, I know that this is my lowest. Okay, and this one here is my highest. So I need to so that was step 1, find your lowest and highest numbers. Now step 2, choose a starting point smaller than my lowest number. So my lowest number is 2.2, or 2 2/10. A good starting point, something smaller than that, maybe would be 2, or 2.0. So I'm going to start at 2.0. That's up to you what you want to choose, but 2 is a nice even number, so let's start with that. There we go. There's going to be my starting point right there. Now I need to choose an end point larger than my highest number. My highest number is 3.6. My end point could be anything higher than that. I'm going to choose an easy whole number again. To make it easier for myself, I'm going to choose the number 4, 4.0. Once you have your starting and ending point, you can draw your number line. Okay, this line continues in both directions, so I'll put arrows. So we've done step 1 and we've done step 2. Next, step 3, label your whole numbers, your ones. So I'm starting with a whole number, 2, and I'm ending with another whole number, 4. Are there any whole numbers between 2 and 4? There's only one, and it's 3. So number 3 needs to go right in the middle, right there. Doesn't need to be exactly, we're not measuring anything here, so as long as it looks fairly accurately like it's in the middle, that's fine. So that's step 3, label your whole numbers. If I had 3 or 4 or 5 different whole numbers to label, I would space them out evenly along the line. Since I only have one, it's easy to place right in the middle. Next, label your tenths. Alright, so between each of the wholes, each of the ones, I need 10 equal parts for my tenths. So I'm going to carefully label 10 parts. To do this, I need to put 9 lines between each hole. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, they're not very evenly spaced, so maybe I'll do better over here. You only need 9 lines because that creates your tenths. The final one is the last line at the hole. So if you see, this actually makes 10 spaces. So if I start here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 tenths. Let's do the same thing over here. Put our tenths between our ones. Alright, that one looks a little better. Next, if needed, label your hundredths. 10 between tenths. Do I need hundredths for these numbers? 2 and 4 tenths, 2 and 2 tenths, 2 and 8 tenths, 3 and 6 tenths. No, I don't need hundredths, so I don't have to do that. So now finally my number line is done. Very last step, I should have put it up here, but very last step, I can go ahead and put these numbers on my number line. So this is 2, This is 2 and 1 tenths, 2 and 2 tenths. I can put right here. Next number would be 2 and 4 tenths, so 2 and 2 again, 2 and 1 tenths, 2 tenths, 3 tenths, 4 tenths. Okay, my next number's 2 and 8 tenths. So I start at my 2, count 8 tenths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Label that. And finally, so I've labeled this one, and this one. Finally, 3 and 6 tenths. Here's my 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tenths. Okay. So that's our first number line. Let's look at another one. We'll follow the same set of guidelines. So I have some numbers now. The difference is these numbers, some of them have hundredths. So first I'm going to follow step 1, which is find the lowest number. So that's this guy. And no, my mistake. Lowest is this guy. Okay. Lowest is 6 and 12 hundredths, and the highest is our 7 and 9 tenths. Okay, so next step, I look at my lowest, and I have to choose a number just a bit smaller than that to start my number line. So this is 6 and 12 hundredths. I could go with 6 and 1 tenths or 6 and 10 hundredths, but again, to make it easier on myself, I'm just going to start at 6. And my highest number, actually I'll put 2 zeros because we have hundredths. My highest number is 7.9 or 7 and 9 tenths. So I'm going to pick a number just higher than that to end my number line. So let's pick 8. And I'll put 2 decimals for my hundredths. Draw the line. Once I have starting and end point, I can draw the line. Little arrow tells me this line continues in both directions. Okay, now my next step is to label the holes. 6 and 8. Am I missing any whole numbers between there, any ones? 6, 7, 8. I'm missing number 7. So again, I just have one number in the middle. You can definitely find number lines where you'll have to put several ones evenly spaced across the line. But again here, I just have the 1 to label. So this is my 7. Okay, so now I've labeled all my ones. Next is label your tenths. Again, same as before. I need 10 points between my ones. Okay, another 10 over here. Okay, not the best job there, but that'll do. Now, looking at my numbers here that I have to label, that I have to put on my number line, I have a couple of them that use hundredths. So to label hundredths, there's 10 hundredths between each tenth. So these are my holes. These are my tenths. Hundredths go between the tenths. So I have 10 hundredths between each of these. So let me just show you where they go. If you can put 10 equal spots here, then you're drawing hundredths. But I don't really have enough space. I tried here to draw 10 little lines, and I don't really have enough space. So instead, I'm just going to make sure that when I have to label hundredths, I'm putting them where they're supposed to go between the tenths, even though hundredths are not labeled on the line. Okay, so let's label these. Let's put them on the number line. 7 and 9 tenths. Here's my 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tenths. Okay. 7 and 5 tenths and 0 hundredths. 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tenths, no hundredths, but they have a 0 there. Seven and 35 hundredths. Okay, this one does have hundredths. So again, you can say 7 and 35 hundredths or 7 and 3/10 and 5/10. 7 here, 1, 2, 3/10, and not 5/10, 5 hundredths. 5 hundredths go between the 3/10 and the 4/10. So I'm going to put it right here. As long as it's between the 2/10. Okay, and finally 6 and 12 hundredths. 6 here, and 1/10 and 2 hundredths. So 6 and 1/10. 2 hundredths is going to be in between the 1/10 and the 2/10. So right in here is 6 and 12 hundredths. Okay, those are the steps for drawing a number line.